On April 15th, Titanic, the British luxury passenger liner, sank during its very first journey, killing 1,500 passengers and ship personnel. En route to New York City from Southampton, England. What makes it even more heartbreaking is the fact that there was another ship, the RMS Californian, present around 20 miles or 38 kilometers away, that could have saved these 1,500 people, including children, women. Even the crew of the Titanic, who were putting people on the lifeboats, said, "Look, there is a ship, no need to worry. Distress signals have been sent and they will come to rescue us." But the problem here was that Stanley Lord, the captain of RMS California, asked the operator to shut down the wireless communication system and couldn't receive the Titanic's SOS messages. It was only when the device was turned on in the morning that the signals were picked up. Other than the SOS signals, there was another option. The crew at RMS Californian spotted the flares from the Titanic, and Lord was woken twice, but he said the flares were probably fireworks, as the Titanic has rich and affluent people who must be partying. The captain of RMS Californian, Stanley Lord, was made the villain, and by the time the Californian reached the scene, the Titanic had sunk, and there were just bodies floating in the water. When an incident of this magnitude happens, a single person shouldn't be made the scapegoat. For example, Robert Hitchens was the man steering the Titanic. When he got the message from the conning tower that there was an iceberg up ahead, Robert should have steered the ship to the left, but instead he turned it to the right, bringing the ship even closer to the iceberg. The iceberg was no ordinary iceberg. It was 100,000 years old, the size was 1,700 feet, and the weight was 1.5 million tons. The Titanic's front right side sustained severe damage, and the size of the hole from the impact was 30 feet, as calculated by scientists from the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution. Keep in mind that it was traveling at a high rate of speed. White Star Line, the parent company of the Titanic, imposed pressure on Edward Smith, the ship's captain, to maintain a high rate of speed in order to create the impression that the Titanic was not only unsinkable, but could travel from England to the United States in a record time, 6 days. And yes, the Titanic was advertised as unsinkable, America's very first multimillionaire, and real estate tycoon John Jacob was aboard the Titanic, and he had a conversation with the architect of Titanic, Thomas Andrews, and Thomas said that even great Poseidon couldn't sink the ship. Poseidon in ancient Greek religion is considered the god of the sea, but both of these men were dead within 24 hours of this conversation. The belief that the Titanic was unsinkable came from its design. It was divided into 16 compartments, and even if 4 of them were completely filled with water, the Titanic was designed to stay afloat. However, when the Titanic struck a massive iceberg on its side, 6 compartments were quickly flooded, and water was rushing into the other compartments too fast to stop, making it impossible to save the ship. I will also tell you the biggest irony of the whole Titanic saga. A ship called Baltic told the Titanic about dangerous icebergs ahead using radio. The Titanic's captain, Captain Edward Smith, wanted to be safe, so he decided to slow down the Titanic. But there was a problem. A man named Bruce Ismay, who was the managing director of the Titanic's parent company, White Star Line, got the message. Instead of listening to the warning, he crumpled up the message and threw it into the sea, and told the captain to increase the speed. And when the unsinkable Titanic was sinking, Bruce was one of the first people to get on a lifeboat to save himself, bypassing the women and children first policy. The biggest tragedy of the Titanic was that there were both rich and poor passengers. The rich folks had nice rooms upstairs, but the poor ones were living downstairs. And when all the chaos started and water began to come in, poor folks couldn't go up to the upper deck. That's because the metal doors on the stairway were already locked, so they couldn't escape, and that's what made the Titanic tragedy even more heartbreaking. But there is one more point to notice here. The poor people who were living in the third-class section of Titanic were behind metal doors from day one because of strict U.S. immigration policies and the fear that they could have infectious disease. All these poor people were traveling to the USA from England for a better life. This chart shows the high difference between the fertility rates of people belonging to different classes. One of the remarkable things about the third-class male passengers who made it to the deck with their families was their courage and selflessness. They stood on the deck and waved goodbye to their wives and children, showing true bravery. Unlike some wealthy men, they didn't rush for seats on lifeboats, ensuring that women and children had a better chance of safety. It's a testament to their strong character and sense of responsibility during a challenging time on the Titanic. In the eerie darkness of that night, around 3 a.m, the Titanic had completely submerged beneath the waters. There were a few lifeboats scattered nearby, but the scene was harrowing. People on lifeboats could only watch in despair as their family and friends struggled in the -2°C water. Those who could swim battled against the freezing cold for a mere 15 to 20 minutes at most, and sadly, many who couldn't swim succumbed to the merciless elements. It's a haunting testament to the extreme conditions and the unimaginable tragedy that unfolded that night. After the tragic incident, research revealed a heartbreaking truth. Over 500 lives could have been saved. There was ample space on the lifeboats, but the way people were put on the lifeboats was chaotic. This happened because the drill to use the lifeboats effectively during emergencies had been cancelled each time. When the Titanic was sinking, it was really chaotic. Out of the 20 lifeboats, 2 lifeboats got flipped over, but around 30 people somehow managed to climb on top of them, and they all survived. But there's a sad part too. The very first lifeboat they put in the water could carry 65 people, but it only had 28 on it. That means 37 people lost their lives due to mismanagement. One of the most talked about and horrible stories from the Titanic is about a lifeboat known as the Millionaire's Boat. In this lifeboat, there were 7 crew members and 5 first-class passengers, including Sir Cosmo, a wealthy real estate owner from Scotland. This lifeboat earned its nickname because the press accused the people inside of ignoring the cries for help from those in the water. It became even more controversial when it was revealed that Sir Cosmo had given each of the 7 crew members £5 as compensation for the loss of their equipment. We can get an idea of how unexplored the oceans are from the fact that it took 73 years to find the wreckage of the Titanic. Around 4 kilometers below sea level, 2 separate parts of the wreckage were spotted, and the distance between these parts was 600 meters. And these are the before and after photos of Titanic, because for over 100 years, bacteria and different organisms have been eating away at the body of the ship. Scientists from UNESCO have stated that by 2050, the entire body of the Titanic will be eaten away by these bacteria. Making these videos takes a lot of time and effort, and the best thing you can do is to watch my videos till the very end. Thank you.